It's all about knowing your body and being able to listen to it. And I so the section leader very interestingly said that her body didn't cope very well in heat, and I thought, actually, I'm pretty sure my body does. So that's why I decided to give it a go, because obviously I'm sure a lot of people saw me out on the roads that day and thought, that's a really silly thing to be doing.
Welcome to this World Extreme Medicine podcast. My name is Dr. Jen Sherman, doctor, coach, and expedition medic. If you're a paramedic, doctor, nurse, physio, or indeed anyone working in healthcare who has a curious and adventurous mind, then this is the podcast for you. Today we are joined by Priteni Horning. Priteni has always been interested in the medical side of things, but unsure of whether a traditional healthcare path was for her. She joined the Army Reserves as a combat medic technician. Her enjoyment of this has led her to recently complete Army training, and she is due to begin her medical training within the Army. Her hope is to become an expedition medic in the future. Welcome, Priteni, to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Jen. It's a pleasure to be on here. I'm doing very well, thank you.
And my favourite question to all my interviewees is, where are you dialing in from today?
Oh, yes. So I'm going to apologise in advance just in case it gets noisy, but I am currently in a car park in Betty Hill, which is very north of Scotland.
Fab. And what's taking you to there? So maybe talk us through what's taking you to the northernmost parts of Scotland.
Absolutely. So I am currently supporting a women's relay. It's the End to End that is run by Love Her Wild, which is a women's outdoor adventuring community. I think they definitely look mainly at getting women that maybe don't feel very outdoorsy or adventurous into the outdoors, but we also have a lot of women that have a lot of experience in the outdoors as well. So it's really lovely that they knowledge share and do that. So I'm currently in Scotland supporting the women's end-to-end relay.
Oh, wow. And how long have you been part of that? Are you just joining for this section of the relay, or have you been involved in the whole relay, or yeah?
No, I have actually been involved in the whole relay. So I started out with the group on the 16th of June. We started in Land's End and we are making our way up to John O'Groats, which we will finish there on Sunday, the 28th of August. So we've passed a baton up. It's been pretty much different women every day, which has been absolutely amazing. So I've got a really lovely balance because I was cycle support for the majority of it. I've currently got a day off so that I can do the podcast with you guys today and catch up on some phone admin. But I've been cycle supporting the majority of it. So I started out there, cycle supported all the way up. And yes, hopefully we'll be walking with the group tomorrow and then cycling in to meet them and see the baton finish at Land's End on Sunday, which will be phenomenal.
Yeah, fantastic. That's fantastic. And what I guess it would be really interesting for myself and the listeners to understand, what has been your own journey into adventuring?
Yeah, so I have done a bit of bike packing before. I've got into running. I've also recently joined the reserves as well, as you mentioned in your intro. And I guess I love being outdoors. It really does make my soul sing. So I guess when I saw this come up, I was feeling a bit restless, and I thought, why not? Why don't I do that? Why don't I support all of it? I had wanted to walk all of it, but Bex, the founder, very very quickly pointed out, very rightly pointed out as well, that you can't walk 74 days back to back, which is how long the relay is going to take. So I said, oh well, I've always wanted to do it on the bike, and I would just love to be a part of the relay. So can I cycle support it? And she said, absolutely. And then you can, book days off and see it all the way into the end, which is hopefully what I will do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And have you always been an outdoorsy adventuring type? Is this something that's been part of you and your identity since you were quite young, or is it something that you've found later on in life?
That's interesting actually, because I've been talking to people about that, and I don't feel like it's been more extreme outdoors activities. Definitely, I was very lucky as a child to go on to kind of summer camps that my uncle ran. He was a big Ray Mears fan, so we would go and have the opportunity to make shelters and create fires and forage. So I was lucky in the sense that I got to do that, but never the cycling or climbing mountains or things like that. That wasn't that. That was a bit too far, I think, for my parents. So that I definitely found with my current partner. He was very adventurous. He loved climbing, hiking. He had been in cadets, so he had that sort of military background for expeditions. So I quickly got used to that sort of thing, which I think is why I was able to transition into the military reserves quite well, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And I think your, I guess your professional kind of journey up until now, and the journey that you hope to go on, moving forward, will be of interest to a lot of our. Do you consider a traditional healthcare route at any, the traditional kind of healthcare training routes at any point, or was you felt was for you? It would be, yeah, really interesting to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, of course. I had always been interested in kind of medical side of things, probably more alternative, or what we call alternative medicines. So that had always been curious in biology and how the body and brain and mind all work together. Um, it wasn't until I was on furlough during the lockdowns that I considered retraining. And I just had a look and I thought, well, as I hadn't done any sciences at A level, I then probably wouldn't be able, I would, would find it hard to get into university. So I'd have to then go back and do an A level and then university. It sounded like a lot of time and money. And I didn't know if I was 100% committed to that line of work. So I thought, oh, there's a 202 field hospital right near me. Why not join that? I had done OTC at university, so I had a little bit of knowledge about it, and also from my partner as well. So I decided to go and sign myself up to the 202 field hospital so that I could become a combat medic technician and then get the military training that way, and also the medic side of the training, and essentially test it out while also getting paid. It sounded like a win-win situation.
Definitely, definitely, yeah. No, no, definitely. It's more like an apprenticeship, isn't it? You're kind of on the job.
Yes,
And
exactly. Can
I
test it
mean,
out.
yeah, definitely. I mean, how have you, how have you found that? Having never been in a healthcare kind of role before, but then kind of moving into that place.
Well, I'm very excited to start it. I have just passed out as a soldier, so I'm sure you'll have lots of listeners that know this already, but first you pass out as a soldier before you start your trade training. So I will be starting my trade training when I go back. Hopefully I can start it in November. I'll have to do 3 different courses. First the CMT3, then 2, and then CMT1 at the end, which is the first class qualification.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a journey then from here on in. And when you kind of joined the OTC at university and then went into the reserves, I mean, was that something that had always interested you, or this idea of kind of military and that kind of path of training and what that brings in terms of lifestyle and skills, or was it something that kind of came about actually out of the blue, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so it has been a bit out of the blue actually. My great grandfather, no, my grandfather on my dad's side um, was in the RAF, and my grandfather on my mum's side did his military service in the ambulance service, I believe. So there's not very many ties to the military. So I'm not sure why I had a sort of fascination, but I did always. And I think actually it came from babysitting a very well known war correspondent's children, and talking to him about all of his adventures. and what he got up to. And I'll never forget him one time telling his daughter to go off and get something that he had brought back for her, and she came back and she went, "Look at this," and shoved this little toy tiger in my face and said, "Doesn't it smell like bombs?" And he had picked it up in a war zone and brought it back for her. And I think all those sorts of things just gave me a fascination with, I mean, it sounds weird to say fascination with war, but definitely a sort of connection and wanting to be a part of it, in the sense that, yeah, to tell the story. I had wanted to be a war correspondent like he was, and then I thought, actually, I feel like I would be doing more good by going into the medics. So that's why I decided to do the medical corps.
That's really interesting, isn't it? It's the power of people, the people we meet in our life journey, and how they can influence what we aspire to be, isn't it? It's so interesting, isn't it, how powerful individuals and memories of individuals can be in shaping our journeys. And I guess what I'm wondering is, given all that, with what you're doing at the moment with supporting the relay with Love Her Wild, have you been supporting it from a logistical perspective, or have you actually been wearing multiple hats and supporting it from a bit of a first aid perspective as well? So what exactly have you been doing in terms of your supporting role in that?
In terms of support for the relay, it's actually been more logistics. So kind of, I think Bex has really found it helpful having somebody that's been there the whole way, that can tell the, section leaders and the women that are participating, how it's been, just be reassuring. The fact that I'm there and can answer any questions that they might have, or at least source the answers for them quickly. There's been quite a lot of me having to go and get things that people have forgotten in places, and generally what would happen is I would see the group off in the morning, spend a bit of time, then try and meet up with them around 11's lunchtime, and then at the end of the day, so kind of just being a constant meeting up, making sure that they're okay, on track, bringing snacks. So in terms of first aid, apart from the very hot day, which I think obviously got up to about 40 degrees in London, we got up to about 36, 37 here. They did have to cancel the relay, and I cycled the baton that day, and was potentially a little bit foolish in crossing Marsden Moor at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with no shade. I did consider fighting the sheep for the shade at the edge of the bridge, but thought they've got hotter coats than I do, so just sun creamed up. I had also got an ice pack, so I shoved the ice pack down the back of my neck and got off the moor. So that's also been a way that I've been supporting. Is a couple of times I've had to cycle the baton as well, when it's either we've not had anyone, or it's been had to be cancelled because of health and safety reasons. So yes, I've been taking the baton on at points as well. So pretty much anything that needs to be done, I'll do it.
Which, there's kind of two lines of questions that come to my mind just listening to you say that. One is obviously these are wonderful skills that you are getting first-hand experience with, in terms of in the future, I know you would like to move into the expedition field, and what you're doing now is you're gaining experience, actually, really, and you're often a bit of all trades, whether you're an expedition medic. So have you had time to reflect on that? Have you had time to reflect on actually the experience and the skills that you've been kind of able to acquire, and how that might hold you in good stead moving into the future?
I think I'll definitely need a bit of time to definitely do a proper reflection. But as you say, the skills that I'm gaining now, that hopefully will absolutely be appealing for me to become a expedition medic, is that being okay in all situations, being organized and able to multitask, being very resourceful, which is one thing a woman said to me. She was like, I didn't worry when she left her phone at Tanhill Inn. She was like, I didn't worry. I knew, even though I'd said I left it on the table, if it wasn't there, I knew that you would know what my room number was, having me mentioned it, and ask if you can check the room as well. And I was like, that's so lovely that she actually had done 8 days back to back with us. So we got to know each other quite well. So it was really lovely having her perception of me after those 8 days as being someone that was resourceful. That was lovely to hear. So yes, I have definitely noticed things that will be useful. I will definitely need to reflect once it's all over.
Big journey, isn't it, you've been on? And what, like, you obviously mentioned that fantastic example of obviously having to cycle through the moor in the middle of a heat wave. And, I guess what I'm getting at is that, have there been moments of challenge for you over the last couple of months in your support role with this relay?
Yeah, definitely. So pushing the bike across the moor in the middle of a heat wave was definitely one way that I pushed my boundaries. But I think it's all about knowing your body and being able to listen to it. And so the section leader very interestingly said that her body didn't cope very well in heat, and I thought, actually, I'm pretty sure my body does. So that's why I decided to give it a go, because obviously I'm sure a lot of people saw me out on the roads that day and thought, that's a really silly thing to be doing. I did obviously have the support, which is why I felt comfortable doing it. And I know that obviously being on a bike, you can create a bit of your own breeze, and there was a wind, so I felt comfortable in the knowledge that my body did okay in heat, that I would be able to do it. And obviously there was I knew that there was support if I couldn't carry on. So yes, that was definitely one boundary I pushed. I guess the other one, although I was lucky enough to go travelling for about 5 months before university, that was the longest time I'd ever been, but it felt different this time, having 2 months on a bike, being mostly by myself out on the roads, and then obviously having the nice element of the social meeting up with them in the morning and night. But that was definitely another boundary that I pushed, having that experience of solo travel and fending for myself out on the bike and on the roads. Like, I've had a lot of A road sections up here in Scotland because there's not many other roads, and the route is very different to one you would pick if you were going to cycle John O'Groats to Land's End, the way that I've been following. So I've had a lot of A road sections, so that's definitely pushed some boundaries of me feeling safe and keeping myself safe as well. So yeah, lots of boundaries that have been pushed on this trip, and the length of doing 2 months, I guess, fending for myself.
Definitely. I mean, I always think with solo traveling, the really interesting thing is that we all, based on our personality and life experiences, we all have different experiences of what we perceive, of how we perceive spending a lot of time on our own. For some people, it's like, relish it. This is wonderful. And for others,
I can hear you perfectly now. I think it just dropped out for a moment. So I was just asking, I think you did hear the question. I was just asking that
as well as solo
of your relationship with the solitariness.
I guess what about that side of things? Was that, how have you found that kind of that solitariness? Have you found that to be a scary place at times, a peaceful place at times? Yeah, it'd be really interesting to hear your kind of relationship with that.
Yeah, so I have enjoyed it at times. There were definitely days where I wasn't able to meet up with the group. I think it was like 2 days in a row, and I was feeling rather lonely, actually. And lo and behold, one of the women that we had met up with, who wasn't walking but had very kindly found a place for us to eat and had come and met the group in, had said that she was going to the place that we would be finishing the next day. But otherwise, other than that, I had no idea where she was going to be. And I came out of the cycle route, entered into the town, and suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone running at me from the from the left-hand side, and it was her. And so that was really nice. So it's almost like, whenever I've had those thoughts of either being scared or alone, it's been provided for me, the solace. So I had an instant where my derailleur broke, and I had lent my charge pack to one of the group because I knew that it was not far till the next place that I would meet them. So I was like, you can have my charge pack, and I'll just see you when I get there. My derailleur broke, so my phone battery died. I couldn't charge it up because I didn't have my charge pack. And I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? And there had been an incident, that slightly uncomfortable one with a guy in Cornwall, and I suddenly thought, you know what, I usually hitch, but what if I get somebody that I don't want to hitch with? What's going to happen then? And I thought, what I need is a female saviour to come round the corner. And a couple of cars had passed me and not picked me up. And I was like, it's a bit unusual, me sticking my thumb out with a bike on my shoulder, because I couldn't even wheel it at this point. But they obviously didn't think that was an unusual sign. But then this woman came round the corner, a lovely mother of 3 who luckily didn't have her children in the car at that point, and she squashed my bike into the back and gave me a lift to the rest of the group. So again, I have definitely had the kind of lonely and scary times, and luckily they've all worked out.
Yeah, and there's so much wonderful learning that comes from those experiences. And there's so much wonderful learning that comes from those experiences, isn't there? I think it's actually a question I wanted to ask. Really is. It's actually a question I wanted to ask you, because there's been so much topical discussion about this in the media, but I know within outdoor groups that are for women. I mean, have you felt safe as a solo female traveller, as an adventure, providing cycle support for this and as an adventure? Have you felt safe doing that in terms of your kind of personal security and physical safety, or has there been moments where you've actually thought that was a very uncomfortable encounter? Because I know you just mentioned about that.
Yeah, so I have definitely overall felt safe, and it has been so nice to kind of have that reassurance that actually most people out there are there to look after you. So the incident that I mentioned was a guy that was obviously trying to be helpful, but I don't know, I felt like behind his eyes I could see there was an intention that I didn't like, and he got a little bit too close and was like touching the bike. He was still saying, helpful things, but I was like, I don't like this situation. And so I just said, my friends are waiting for me, and cycled off. But that was the only time that I felt unsafe, a kind of for personal safety. And I was able to luckily get myself out of it. It was, the middle of the day, but there was just a feeling there. And I think that's something that comes from being out and about and relying on yourself. I think everyone has intuition, and that potentially you don't have the reason or the quiet maybe to listen to it and learn from it. So that's, I guess, one thing that's good. And I could feel my fight or flight kicking in, and I flitted out of the situation. So luckily that was fine. But otherwise, overall, it has been, I felt safe. There was a woman that kindly took me in Ulston, and it ended up us knowing, us having a connection. Her son had also gone to university at the same, and she was just wonderful, and she treated me so well. She gave me a mini bottle of Prosecco and some crisps and told me to have a bath and made me breakfast in the morning, and it was just lovely. So those sorts of things, those have happened far more than the uncomfortable situations. So it's been lovely to get out there and just renew your faith in humanity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're 100%. And I think your point about intuition is so powerful. It's something that, this is anecdotal just from speaking to a lot of women who've done solo adventuring, and they all mention the same thing about when you're out there and you're solo adventuring, you really learn about your intuition. You really get so in tune with it. And I think that that's something that outdoor adventuring, as a woman, not even just as a woman, as anybody can really provide, which I'm not sure can be provided by a lot of other experiences, if that makes sense. There's something so unique about that, the multifaceted multifaceted components of outdoor and adventure challenging. Is so rich in experience and learning. So yeah, that's really interesting and really wonderful to hear that, you know, it's been a journey of restoration of faith in humanity rather than the opposite. So that's wonderful and some really lovely memories, I'm sure. So what I would love to hear about is, you know, obviously you've mentioned that after the relay is finished, you're moving into doing your medical training in the army. So what then, I know you'd love to get into the expedition world. Where has that came from, that idea of expeditioning? And how do you hope, or where do you hope that might take you in the future?
Absolutely. So I had handed my notice in and thought I'm just going to have a proper adventure, and hopefully I'll have an epiphany about what I will want to do next by speaking to all of these amazing women that I will meet along the way. And that has certainly happened. As you mentioned, I have decided, definitely through seeing the section leaders, either whether they're lowland or mountain leaders, just be out there and enjoy what they're doing. I thought I want to do something like that. And then with the added combination of hopefully my combat medic training, I thought, why not something like expedition medic or wilderness paramedic, which is something that I've just come across through one of the section leaders, as I believe she said she was a wilderness paramedic, and she gave me some links to diplomas and masters that I can do across the country, and then lots of information sources. So I'm hoping to have a look into that. There was also one lunchtime where we stopped near a little canal that was having a fair, and the emergency services, it was up here in Scotland actually, that were on the ground there was the International Rescue Corps, and I thought, oh, I've never heard of them. So I went over and had a chat and they said that they were mainly based in Scotland, but that was another avenue that I thought I might want to explore once I've finished, is potentially look into doing a master's and then maybe working for something like the International Rescue Corps, or seeing what I can do expedition medic wise through the army as well, see if there's opportunities like that. But still very, very new to the idea, and looking forward to what I might be able to find or do with it once I get back and qualified.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of like leadership, because often when we're talking in the expedition medic roles or expedition or wilderness paramedicine, it's so much about leadership and about kind of course having the medical skills and being, you know, competent in those, but it's also about having the leadership skills as well. So it would be really interesting to hear how you feel this current experience has helped with your leadership style, your leadership skills. Is it something you've even thought about? Maybe it isn't, I don't know, but it would be really interesting to know if you've how it's maybe influenced that.
Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't until recently actually, because I've been able to see so many different section leaders and how they lead, and I have been lucky enough to walk on a few of the days as well, so that I can actually see them in action, because normally I would be staying with them afterwards or seeing them off in the morning and kind of seeing them in between times. So it was great to be able to go on the walks and see how they were, and obviously they all had different leadership skills. So again, it's something that I would like to reflect on. I'm hoping to put my ramblings together and then I can reflect on it properly. But the leadership side of things, definitely. And I think also they've been honed through the reserves as well. Each person in the section would have to be the section commander for a day or so. So that also helped, and I've definitely got a lot more confident. And that's something, again, that the outdoors gives you, which is why I found the relay so important, is the confidence that you can look after yourself, and so therefore you put that confidence into all other areas as well, which is necessary, but also a kind of consideration for the person and their experience and where they might be at. I think it's a lot about people skills, leadership.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I'm forever finding it's a lifelong journey. Leadership, you never, for example, what I mean is that, having in the last few years became a mother, I never would have anticipated that would have then had an impact on how I lead in other professional capacities, but it has hugely. It's hugely had an effect on it, and it's been a really positive influence. So I think it's something that our leadership styles and our leadership skills are constantly developing with the other life experiences we accrue, which is wonderful, isn't it? It's the way it should be. But what I would love to know is what you're planning on doing when you finish on Sunday. How are you going to celebrate?
Yes. So I've sadly got to get straight back down to Shropshire, which is where I'm currently based. So we will be, I think I need to find out how big the group is that day, but definitely there'll be some bubbles involved, and then hopefully a meal as well, just to finish off. We will then be travelling back down to Shropshire on Monday. And what I'm looking forward to most, because I know that I'm probably going to get those post-adventure blues, is the fact that we've got a film tour, hopefully happening next year once the film from the relay has been made, and then we're going to show it up the country. So I'm hoping that I can get back and then have a proper celebration that way, because hopefully we'll be able to get people together, and it'll be in a little bit of time since we've seen them, and hopefully we'll be able to get everyone involved, those that walked, those that haven't, those that supported, and hopefully have a little party at each destination, and that will, I think, feel more of a celebration to be together again and just reflecting on our experience and reminiscing. And I think that will be the best celebration of all.
Definitely. And I think it's something we speak a lot about on the expedition courses, is this idea that the importance of what you do whenever it ends, and actually having a plan and having something positive in place so that you can, because the post-expedition blues is a really real phenomenon, or the post-adventure blues, I call it. It's such a real phenomenon psychologically. So I think having something like what you've described already organised, and something creative as well, where you can pour, all the experience into something creative, like a movie or a documentary, is wonderful. So that sounds amazing. It sounds fantastic. Unfortunately, it's actually time to draw this episode to a close. Time flies. I'm really enjoying, Priteni, the beautiful bird song in the background. Wherever you are, there are some beautiful birds singing. So it's been a wonderful backdrop to a podcast. It's been very soothing for the nervous system. I would love to know, Priteni, I'm sure there are going to be listeners today who would love to connect with you, to hear what you've been up to and what you're going to do in the future. What is the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, of course. So I had been very against Instagram until this trip, and then I thought actually it's probably the best platform for my family and friends to keep updated and know that I'm safe and still going, instead of me having to contact them every day. So I do now have an Instagram, which is Priteni Horning, just my name. So if you type that in, my face will pop up, so you'll be able to follow my journey that way if people want to.
Thank you so much. That's great. So that's just to repeat in case any of the listeners just didn't hear, it's just Priteni Horning. So if you just Priteni's name into Instagram, and she will pop up, and I'm sure there's some wonderful pictures up there from this amazing journey you've been on over the last couple of months. All that it remains for me to say is thank you so much, Priteni, for joining me today and for such an inspiring conversation. I hope that the remainder of the relay over the weekend is a roaring success. And thank you so much, WEM listeners, for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jen.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the World Extreme Medicine podcast, please subscribe, like, and share. And if you want to meet lots of other risk-taking, rule-bending, and inspirational people, then you need to be in Edinburgh on the 19th to the 21st of November for this year's conference. Tickets are on sale now. Go to extrememedicineexpo.com to find out more.